At this point, we have verified that the file they've given us is a zip file, that it contains a shapefile in it, and that the shapefile contains only polygons. And at this point in the logic, that's about all the checking I want to do. That makes me feel pretty confident they gave us something that we can work with. So we need to now move it out of the temp directory and put it somewhere more persistent. And when you're working in the apps, the workspaces is where you want to put files. There are a lot of reasons for that, including the workspaces are usually persisted in a production instance. So these are files that your app requires, and you want to keep them. You want to put them in workspaces. So let's go back, and what we're going to do is open up helpers.py. We're going to add 2 more helper functions. First, let me add an import that they're going to use, glob. And then we'll go back down to the bottom. The first helper function is the prep boundary dir. We're going to put this in the user workspace directory, and this is essentially a unique directory for every user. It's named after their username. But then within that directory, we're going to create a new directory called boundary because shapefiles have many files, so we want to put it in its own directory. And then we're going to make sure that directory is clear. We don't want to have multiple copies of different shapefiles that they've uploaded. That would just become cluttered. And so we're going to kind of make the policy that there's only ever one shapefile for any given user. So we'll clear out that directory if there's anything in it. So the next time they upload, it's going to replace whatever was in there. So that's prep.dir. The second function that we'll use is write boundary shapefile. Okay, and this requires shapefile, so let me go ahead and add that import. And then go back down. And this takes actually the shapefile reader object that is pointing at the shapefile in the temp memory, in this case, the temp directory. And it also takes a directory, and what it's going to do is open up a new file in that directory or using the shapefile writer, and then we're going to iterate through the one in the temp directory and write it. Now the reason I'm doing this is so that we only get the information written that we need. They could have uploaded a shapefile along with some other files that we don't want, so I don't just want to copy over or re-extract to the workspace. So instead, I'm using the shapefile library to iterate through and write everything to a new shapefile so that we're only getting the information that we want and not cluttering our workspaces. With that in place, we're ready to implement the logic in our controllers, and we'll need to import a new Tethys SDK, the Workspaces user workspace object. Okay, and what this is a decorator for your controllers. And how you use it is you put it outside of your, or I guess at the beginning of your definition for your controller, like so. And it will actually add the workspace object as a new argument. So you just add a new argument to the controller. Now we need to propagate this down to our helper controller, the handle shapefile upload, because it's going to be the one that ultimately works with this. So we'll add user workspace here. And I'm going to also update my doc string while I'm here, as you should whenever you add a new argument, to explain what this thing is. And it's going to be a Tethys workspace object. And then we'll add the calls up here, or rather in the helper function, sorry, to prepare the directory and write the shapefile, and I'll need to import those. They are in the helpers directory. Prep boundary dir write boundary shapefile. Go back down there. There they are. So assuming we get past this point, we know it's valid. So we'll just put it right after that. And we'll put it in this try except in case something goes wrong while we are writing that shapefile. The last thing we need to do is in our call of handle shapefile in the viewer directory, or viewer controller, we need to add that. We need to pass that along. Let's go try this out. Okay, so we had an error come up, and the issue is it's trying to work with a closed file. This is an error on my part, but I'm glad it came up because it's helpful to illustrate what to do when you get these error messages. In this case, notice we're passing in this shapefile object, but I have inadvertently indented this incorrectly because it needs to be within this with block so that that file is still open. As soon as we exit this with block, it closes that file object. So we need to just indent that a little. That should resolve that problem. Let's go refresh again. I'm going to do the select press enter method to clear the form. Okay, and I'm going to upload USA Simplified in this case. And nothing happened. It's not displaying any errors. Let's go look at our workspaces to see if it's there. So user workspace, admin is my username. There's the boundary directory, and there's our shapefile. Okay, so it's writing it to the user workspace. That's beautiful. The one last thing that we need to do, I've hinted at this throughout the tutorial, maybe I should have done it sooner, is we're going to add a little bit of logic to help the form reset. So if we just put this here, and I need to import this HTTP response redirect. So let me go up here from Django. We already have a Django HTTP import, so we import it from there. What this is doing is if we don't have a set boundary error, so no errors, rather than completing out and returning this way, we're going to redirect back on ourselves as denoted by request.path, the current URL. And then it will go through and load the controller again. And that essentially is the same thing as we have been doing whenever we select this and press enter. Okay, we've got to wait for Tethys to reload. There we go. But we'll just do it automatically whenever we have a successful submission. We don't want to do that when we have errors because then we lose our error message. So let's make sure our errors are still working. Good. But we do want to do it when we are successful. And you'll know because when you refresh it, you don't get that continue warning because with form data, right?